All right, I got Bobby Shouse here from the Dive Bars. Awesome guy. That's really what I want. I want to associate with great people, and the people I always see in the comments. They're just great, and I just love being around good people. And he's one of them. There's no doubt. You see what you get, and so we're gonna talk and chat. I would say I'm more of the jaded Finn fan, the bitter girlfriend type Dolphin fan. I kind of look under the rocks constantly. And there's a part for that, but there's also the other part to see the positivity and the light and the hope. And Bobby Shouse does that. And I think, there's a lot to be had from that because this game's about fun. And there's always a yin and yang to everything. There's always a positive to a negative. So we're going to try to deal with that. I know that Bobby's got some disgruntled part to him. I'm going to try to get it out. I'm going to try to get the disgruntled Bobby Shouse out, but we'll see how it goes. So Bobby, I'm glad you're here, brother. We're going to talk the Finns. Let's kick it off. So we had a vision going into last season, and now a lot of that vision's kind of been corrected, I guess, to a certain extent. How has your vision of the Dolphins, your viewpoint of the Dolphins changed from last year to this year? And then we'll kick it off as far as what we see the future going to be. Be Nostradamus time.
Yeah, I think it's funny because the vision is, for better or worse, is really the same. I mean, like, the holes are the same on the team. Obviously the front office didn't make any changes. The coaching staff, for the most part, is the same. I think the biggest change really is there's probably a little less rope left for the Mike McDaniel and Grier to hold on to, probably even Tua. And you said that you wanted to get the bad side out of me, but it's not really that hard these days. I mean, the topics, the facts are the facts. The topics are the topics. I mean, that's all we got to talk about is the reality of the situation. And there's not much good right now. I'll be honest.
Well, okay. So let's parse that out. What would you say? So it's not good. What do you see the situation? Like, we don't know about the draft. Chris Grier could go bonkers and, go savant for a season and bring us a whole haul of talent in the free agency and the draft. Look, I'm trying to be positive. But with that aside, what do you see the situation? Like, where do you see us heading? What's this not good? Let's define it. In the mind of Bobby Shouse. Give us the mind of Bobby Shouse.
Yeah, well, the crazy part is that's the reason. Another reason of concern is that there's not a really clear answer there. So, like, in previous years, like, we're all in, like, we're looking for this piece or that piece to get us over the hump. Man, there's just so many questions. Like, and in 12 months' time, we could be without Grier, McDaniel, and Tua.
Yeah. That's right there. That's beautiful.
Yeah, well, that's reality, though. So, like, but we're limited in cap space. We're stuck with a lot of players that might be over the hill and getting paid a lot. So it's like, how can they really maneuver, and how aggressive do they truly want to be being on their last leg to fix the problems, or like how much of a swing are they going to take to fix the issues? And then if it doesn't work, I think that you got to clean house. And the downside of not firing Grier, because I wanted them to move on from Grier just to show like some sense of like, we realize it's not working and we have all our draft picks this year. We want to make sure we put the right guy in the seat. But the upside, I guess, is they didn't do a halfway measure. They didn't just fire Grier, try to force Mike on someone else and Tua on someone else. And if it doesn't all work together as a whole, then everyone goes out together as a whole, at least in theory.
Yeah. Now I got to say, I did a little podcast on you guys. I was so impressed that you got Darlington on there, and he talked about there was no hot seat. That's why I think that every content provider should be trying to hear each other out, because there's so many goodies that come out. And you guys do a great job, but I was shocked. And from my evaluation, I don't think this is the last year Grier and McDaniel, unless they have like a total crap out season. I think if they're even like semi-okay, I think they're going to be back. What say you?
Yeah, no, first of all, the Jeff Darlington episode, we can't take any credit for that. He literally, for those that know the story, fell out of the sky into our lap randomly posted a picture wearing one of our hats that he found apparently at a boat club in Fort Lauderdale. And then I said, hey, shoot us a DM. We'd love to have you on and hear this story. And obviously, like you've seen, we got an hour and a half of an awesome interview with Jeff Darlington.
100%.
And for those who don't know Jeff Darlington, he's literally like Noel McDaniel for over 15 years, like is close to him now, like one-on-one, has done like the coolest one-on-one segments with McDaniel and Tua over the last few years. Like there's not many people, one, plugged in with South Florida like Darlington, but also the current people in the building right now.
Yep.
So like you said, I was sitting there like you, just like, oh my God, like he was just giving us so much insight that like I can't take any credit for it. Like he ran the show and he was awesome. And I think he said at one point he thought Grier might be, but come to find out it didn't really get that close, but he thought it definitely was deserving. And him being, Mike's boy, I got to really take it serious. He was like, Mike was never even considered on the warm, like not even a warm team. So it's like, yeah, I think, but that group, that's our fear, right? That group is just
Teflon.
That group is just like, look, if we lose one, all the skeletons get out of the closet. So we're just going to stick together and ride it to the end. But man, it's scary because it's like, we got all our draft picks. We're going to get a couple more probably from the compensatory formula. And then, we got to, we have to hit it. And like you said, though, if somehow we hit it just right, we could really fix everything. I mean, we have enough assets, just draft, to fix a lot of our major issues.
Yeah, not everything, but a lot, I'd say.
I'd say a lot of our major issues, like building the trenches and just staying healthy alone would be huge. So, yeah, it was kind of shocking to hear that Mike was never on the warm seat. And I'm a fan of Mike, but I thought everyone should at least be warm. I mean, everyone should have been on notice after that season, especially how the season ended. And then the whole Tyreek thing, and we'll get into that, I'm sure. But Tyreek doing what he did, getting beat by the ghost of Aaron Rodgers, the last game of the season, man, there's no way to it's inexcusable.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, so let's say let's do what do they call that? Not a psychologist. Role play for a second. So let's role play. I'm gonna put on my Stephen Ross hair. I'll take his hair. The guy still got hair at that age, man.
I'll take his wallet.
Oh yeah. I'll take half the wallet and the hair. So he's, in my opinion, in my evaluation, he has crossed a lot of lines in the way he's kind of gone in the back roads with people, whether it's Sperano or whether you like Flores or not. That's not a good falling out. Fangio ride him out and the media beating him out. Gailey with the mysterious tweet that he's fired when he wasn't. ESPN runs all that stuff, and you keep going with it. It's a fraternity, and so I feel like he's polluted the waters. And if you go look at the last coaching cycle, Mike McDaniel was like plan C or D, and we couldn't really get anyone serious in here. There was a time after Bullygate, we got Hickey in here for a year just to ride it out because no one wanted to work here. So my feeling is that he understands, hey, look, man, I'm not going to be doing this a lot longer. Maybe I'm going to pass off to my daughter as like a legacy thing. Who's going to come in here other than this guy? And if I get somebody else in here, unless I promote Marvin Allen or McKenzie, then I've got to, this boat's going to get rocked a ton, and I might get somebody who's not even as good. That'd be hard, or just slightly better, more likely. and then, it's like the coaches really don't want to work here. So I just figure that he wants to get to a point where there's still that illusion of ascension. And if that happens, I think they'll be back. The only way they won't be back is a total crap out season, I think. I'm not saying I'm right. So what say you?
Yeah, no, I think that, you clearly are right. That's what we've seen over and over again. I think, if they, as long as they don't go like 3-15 or 3-14 or whatever the case is, I think you're probably going to keep seeing the same thing. The only thing, just like this year, I don't know how long you can sit there and pour all the money that he's poured into this. Even have the talent that we have currently on the roster and miss the playoffs or not win a playoff game, sit here and have to watch these amazing playoff games and how cool that would be for your franchise, and just say, oh, but they're my friends, so I'll just ride with it. But I do agree that, like, to an extent, he understands, like, he's not young and he doesn't have a lot of years left. And if you reset, you're almost admitting that, okay, it's going to be 3 to 5 years before we're even back to this point. Is that worth it for me? But at the same time, he's got to realize, you got to pick and choose. Like, do you want to be subpar for the remainder of your years too? So it's like, it's a tough call, and I do understand it. He's at the age where, he's apparently choosing being comfortable and safe around the people he's got in his building than to be edgy and shake things up. And hey, if that's what he's choosing, that's what he's choosing. I myself,
money.
Myself, I'm kind of a fan of Ross. I mean, it's hard not to be a fan of Ross as a fan, just on the general fact that he's never really held back any resources. Like, he's given his guys, like, if you need $20 million to sign a guy's signing bonus, to open up money to go get another big time free agent, to make this move for the team, my wallet is open. Do what you think is best for us. Go. I'll sign whatever check. He built the stadium. He gave us a venue that
beautiful place, man. Beautiful.
But it's hard. I understand there's things behind the scenes that clearly have happened. We know some of them, or we know some of it. But at the end of the day, all those things he did trying to get a better team and a winner. So at the same sense, it's kind of like, I respect that too.
Yeah. For me, it's like, I think he's almost a victim of himself, because the man's made billions of dollars. He's brilliant. He really does love the team, but I don't think he's ever separated the job. So he views it as a corporate business structure. And in the money department, in the higher echelons above the GM, that's fine. But at the GM level, it's a pseudo warrior endeavor, and you can't have too many voices. He likes to have many voices and everybody having a share. He likes to be involved, but unfortunately, he has an unbelievable business sense, but a terrible football sense. And his inclinations and his hunches are not usually right when it comes to football. And I think he likes, in a way, control. And he doesn't want a GM in there who says, listen, I appreciate that, but no, no.
Yeah, exactly.
But you need that, because that's how football's played. For me, you need a GM who's half a corporate guy and half a warrior. And then you need warriors underneath. And when it starts breaking apart, you could do the whole snake corporate thing and break. But the first two stages of the inception and then the middle ground, it all needs to be a warrior type thing. And you need one voice. And that voice can't be Stephen Ross or Garfunkel or anybody. It's got to be a GM who's honorable. He knows the game of football, and he sets the tone. And sometimes says, no, you're the owner, but no. And I think that's the biggest problem, because Grier is just a yes man.
Yeah. Yeah, I think another good term I've heard before is the grocery shopper. So, other people will put a list together for him, like Mike McDaniel's the wife. Your wife will put the list together for you, but you'll pick up the groceries on the way home. And I think that's a good analogy too, because it's like, we don't know that Chris Grier, and we kind of touched on this in the Darlington episode. We don't know that Chris Grier has ever been like, this is my guy. I need him right here at pick 24. We need, like you said, we need somebody that there is no questions. That this guy runs the football operations. This guy, you coach the damn team. I draft. I sign free agents. Now, of course, you want some cohesion.
Yes.
You got to talk. This is the scheme. This is the type of player. This is our architect that we're looking at for that spot. But you need a guy, like you said, that can put his foot down and say, nah, I really don't like that. This is what we're doing. This is going to help us more. And we definitely don't have that. I think we're the furthest thing from that. I think it's a collective unit that sits down, and who knows how many of them, and kind of, makes all these decisions together, instead of having a guy that's like, this guy's a great general manager. We respect that, and we let him do his job. This guy's a good defensive coordinator. We can set him free and let him do his job. Like, all the way from the top to the bottom. And I think that's a big.
Oh no, keep going. I'll interject a second.
it's just a big hole. We don't have that at all.
Well, I'll say this. I think this is my evidence or whatever, my train of thought. I think Grier has a lot more control than people say, because if you look, 2 regimes Eichenberg was forced in. You look at the way the offensive line's been designed through 3 regimes, it's the same. And I don't see how a guy like Grier, who's been here 24 years, is absolutely entrenched in Teflon, is going to bring these rookie coaches in and they're going to tell him, I want this, I want that. I think he listens. I think he's more amiable in mid-rounds. But I think he sets the tone, because even if you look at Flores when he first got here, he said, there's an interview on it. He says, Flores, I talked him to get in here. They're sitting together. And he's like, I know he had a lot of things on his plate, but we were happy for him to, contribute. And I don't see how you're going to bring McDaniel in and you're going to say, oh, this is what I think when they sit down, they say their vision to the coach, and the coach sees if it's matches, because there's no way that Grier, being that entrenched, is going to allow anybody to dictate, because you can clearly see he's a nice guy in a sense where he presents that timid outlook, but no guy who's Mr. Wallflower is going to get up in the public and say, the offensive line, fans are more concerned than us, and then double down the next year. And then never say so to me that, and even a simple thing like with Flores, he cut Van Noy at the end of 20 season to spite Flores. And that's not a wallflower. I think he presents the wallflower. I think the media presents a wallflower. I'm not saying he's not amiable to a certain extent, and maybe too much, but I think that he's got some ego.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's just my take. Who knows? Whatever. So let's move off Grier, because I want to talk happy. Well, sort of happy. What do you think about Hill? What do you think about Hill?
Yeah, see what I'm saying? These topics kind of keep you in a certain headspace. There's no breaks. Yeah, I think we've gotten out of it a little bit, so it's a little easier to look back and look at the whole picture. I think it's a bad situation no matter how you look at it, but I do believe that it was a little blown out of proportion in the sense that, not that it's as bad as it looks. It is as bad as it looks. I just feel like if Tyreek wouldn't have gotten in front of a mic that night, none of this happens. And I feel like his emotions got the best of him. A whole season came to an abrupt end that night. He fought through an injury. He's never missed the playoffs in his whole career. That's kind of crazy. He said that. I never even thought about that. So this is the first time he's really dealt with that adversity, and he didn't handle it well. He didn't handle it well at all. And that's not something you can sugarcoat at all. Like, I really wish it was a conversation that was had the next day or 2 days later in exit interviews, and they could have had a heart-to-heart behind closed doors, and no one even knows about this, but it didn't. And now it's a whole thing. Now it's whether Tyreek Hill, and I do think that he realizes now, like, okay, I overreacted a little bit. Maybe I shouldn't have probably said that, but they got to also make up their mind if, like, Tyreek Hill, if he wants to be here, do they want to keep him? Do they want to let him disrespect them to the whole nation and be okay with that and move forward? And, of course, the other thing is some of the things, we don't know if it was him for sure, but like people showing up late and whatnot. Do you just slap a guy on the wrist and let him keep doing that after the whole season of that? Which I'm not going to say that's Tyreek. I mean, we have stories to think it is, but I can't speak on that for sure. So there's a lot of questions on both sides. If Tyreek did make a mistake and he realizes that and he wants to make things right, the Dolphins still have to realize or decide, do they even want to keep him? So even if he wants to be around, they might be like, nah, that was too much. You crossed the line. It's not going to work with the dynamic of the locker room anymore. We probably need to move on.
Well, two things. What does Bobby Shouse do, the GM, with Hill, and what do you think is going to happen?
What I would do is probably what's going to happen. So I'll just say it one time. Yeah, it's probably going to be, a couple of weeks are going to go by. People are going to start to forget about it. Tyreek will find a way to do it a Tyreek way where he apologizes or just makes a statement that generally just makes you realize that he's not leaving. And And then, yeah, they probably never trade him. They probably never move off of him, and they try to make it work with Tyreek. And I feel like a lot of reasons. One, I just feel like that's where it's going to go on a personal level. But two, I just feel like there's so many other loopholes to worry about, like his contract. You just gave him another whole year or 2 years of guaranteed money.
Yeah.
He's not getting any younger. He's not the asset he was when you traded for him. So it's just like, do you just give Tyreek away and take a big hit, or you just try to keep him, make it work? And I feel like it's easier to keep him and try to make it work, at least on a business level.
I think it's a rock and a hard place. I think that if you'd moved off Grier, it would have been the right move. Problem is that McDaniel, his whole offense is based on leverage. And if you pull Hill out, I mean, Waddle set some good leverage, but nothing like Hill and nothing like the two of them together. And a lot of the concepts that McDaniel likes to run and the offense he currently runs is not possible without the leverage that he sets. Without, you could, if you built like some really awesome offensive line, you got yourself a top flight tight end. But I think a lot of it, like even if you see like the motions are not working like they were, they've kind of focused on those cheap motions now. So if you pull him out, it's going to be very, very hard to make this a successful season. I think it would be better for a restart. I don't like anyone quitting. I don't even care about the brown image with his face on it and all that stuff. What I care about is on the field, and he quit. That's the biggest thing. And it's hard because, you can beat a tough guy and then reel it back to the nice guy like Coughlin, but it's very hard to go from the super nice guy to then laying down the law. Do you think that McDaniel could do that?
Yeah, that's the question. He's got to find the line. So it's hard to be both. So that's going to be the problem is can he be the enforcer that he needs to be while also trying to be the player's coach and Mr. Charisma and Mr. We had practice and getting the guys hype and all that stuff that we've seen over the years. That's going to be what he's got to figure out. I think one thing that was interesting, though, that you brought up is that don't get me wrong, I love Tyreek Hill. Some of the most exciting times as me being a Dolphins fan and you as well, and anyone watching this was with Tyreek Hill. 2 years ago, that was just that was the peak of Dolphins. Yeah. For me, that was it. So I love Tyreek Hill, but will say part of me does kind of I am intrigued about life after Tyreek. And whether that's because he asked for a trade and we can't fix this, or 2 years from now when he just rides off in the sunset or whatever it is, I am intrigued. Jalen Waddle was an awesome number one receiver. It was a different way we used him. He was obviously force-fed the ball a lot around the line of scrimmage and just made plays with his feet, with the ball in his hands. But I am intrigued by that. And what you said, maybe getting rid of Tyreek and understanding you don't have a cheat code anymore will hopefully open some eyes, and McDaniel and Grier will realize, whoever's here, that, we actually have to build a real roster. You can't hide terrible guards because you have two of the fastest receivers in the league pulling gravity. So I think that also excites me. That also excites me, the fact that if you lose Tyreek, yes, you lose that gravity. You lose that guy that can pull the top off, but you are also hopefully come back to earth and have to build a team correctly and build the trenches so you can kind of, for better or worse, win with less talent on the outside. But I love the idea of building a wall up front and a nasty tight end, like you said. Waddle and an awesome tight end would be enough, honestly, with an awesome O-line. You got the running backs.
Oh yeah. I mean, look at all the playoff teams and how they're getting down. So if GM Bobby Shouse is got the draft coming up, where are you targeting? What's your, not say player, but what's your major aims? Because you got your 13th and then the 45-ish.
Yeah,
so,
13, 45, 98.
Yeah,
it's
98.
It's in there.
Yeah, I don't remember the
late 90s for sure.
Yeah. So what's of 3 prime pieces?
At 13, a lot of people, and don't get me wrong, I would be like, damn, they really did that. But I would move on in like 3 seconds if we drafted Tyler Warren because I love the player. I think it would be another like Dolphins did it again. Like they ignored the obvious need because they think they can overcome it. But look, Tyler Warren, he does a lot and he fixes. He can block and he's just insane with the ball in his hands. He's an absolute weapon. So like, don't get me wrong. I just think that's overkill a little bit, especially how good Jonnu played. It's just there's so many bigger needs. So I narrow it down to 2 places. I think you gotta and I can even give you names. I think you gotta hope one of Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks, or Malachi Starks falls to 13. I think you can. Malachi Starks is a blue chip safety. You're probably gonna have 0 safeties on the roster at this point. I think Malachi Starks is like played in the SEC, just been great for like consistent for like 3 seasons. Malachi Starks would be a real Chris Grier move, in my opinion. Yeah. And I think you can understand that one because it's going to be a huge need. And I think you got to go O-line. I mean, whether it's at 13 or 45, one of those picks has to be a guy that's plug and play O-line. So like,
we need more than that, but at least that.
Absolutely. That's minimum. So like, you got to go there or get you a good guard in the second round.
Yeah. I think, the number one key thing is finding a player that's legit. I mean, legit as a person. They don't have to be the Mr. Nice Guy. I don't care if they're Mr. Nice Guy, but they're serious about winning. They're committed. Yeah. They're a leader. And then they're a producer. And honestly, I see it as a very small odds that we're going to have some major successful season. And I'd rather get a player, whether it's Starks or Warren, even if they don't fit fill the obvious need, because I'd rather have that than, reach for Jackson or reach for Eichenberg or reach for Kinley or whatever. You'll be able to get a tackle, but then, okay, so you get a tackle. What do you do with Jackson? And what do you do with Paul? And where do they play? I don't think either one of them can go inside. So then you got to take one of these guys and move them inside. Now, Banks, out from 3 yards. I haven't really done the studies yet on the players, but he's so smart. He knows the game a lot, and he loves Banks. And he says he's a perfect guard tackle. And so if he's there, I think that should be the play after I look at the film, just from conceptual. But if he's not, and one of these tackles are there that maybe can play guard and maybe they're going to be a good tackle, then you just got to get somebody legit. Because there's some good guards in the second round, and you're going to be going early. There's 2 guys. I can't remember their name. They did a whole podcast. I don't remember. I'm bad with names. But there's like one guy from Alabama and someplace else.
Alabama and Ohio State. Ohio State has like Donovan. Yeah, I'm just starting to get into it myself. But Ohio State and Alabama both have a guy, and Georgia has a guy.
Yeah, that's the guy I like. I like the guy from Georgia, I think, the most.
Georgia has a great dude. Another place that we could look is like Tyler Booker, amazing guard. You probably don't want him at 13, but like, look, you get to 13 and those guys are gone. Like you said, you drop down 5 picks, you drop down 6 picks. Now you got a Tyler Booker, you got an extra second, you got an extra third. Those things make more sense at that point. And I agree with you. That's why I said you got to hope a blue chip guy falls to you that also fits your need. But if it doesn't, I agree with you.
We got many needs. The only needs we really don't have is edge.
I'm not going to leave the first round mad if we leave with Tyler Warren. I agree with you. Like, you get a blue chip player at a premium position, and he can. I'm not going to be like, I'm not going to get stuck on it. I agree with you that you still got to add good players. At the end of the day, you're going to be better moving forward with a great player. So, like,
I agree. So, okay. So, do you think in this going into the season, you think we can fix the offensive line, and who's your starters? Obviously, not. Don't tell me the rookies. But, you got Jackson obviously starting. You got Paul starting. Or you bringing Teron back for some kind of pay for play thing?
If Teron wants to come back, Teron's coming back. So I'm definitely going to keep that door open.
Oh yeah, I love Teron.
But
it's got to be a pay for plays type thing.
Yeah, if he wants to give it another run, you're the left tackle. But Patrick Paul is like ready to roll. Kendall Lamb, and that's another person. He's contemplating retirement. Yeah, maybe you don't. Yeah, maybe you don't even bring him back. Either way, so you just got to move on with life without Kendall Lamb.
Yeah, he's retiring. I think he decided. He said this was his last year.
Well, he came back off of that. He came back.
Oh,
and
he
changed.
did.
Yes, he said now he doesn't. He's not as sure,
Ooh.
and he does have to actually process things. But he had a back surgery right after the season ended. He missed the last game because he had a bulging disc that was hitting some kind of nerve. But he was sure this was his last year because his grandpa passed away, and it made him really think about life. But after playing this year and getting some quality time starting, he kind of realized that he might not be, not to speak for him, but he might not be as ready as he thought he was just to wrap it up. He really enjoys still playing, you know? So
you bringing Eichenberg back?
No, Eichenberg is probably done. Unless Eichenberg wants to be what he is, and that's a 7th or 8th O lineman at that price.
Yeah.
Eichenberg is not in Miami. And I'm signing a guard as soon as free agency starts. You probably aren't going to get the dream scenarios like the guy from Kansas City, but just go get me a $10 million guard that can do his job. And then we can look at the draft and get you another guard. So I'm going Armstead or Paul left tackle, however that works out. I don't know depending on who you draft or who you sign, it's going to be a free agent right guard or left guard and a drafted right guard or left guard. You got Brewer at center and Austin Jackson back at right tackle.
Yeah, I think that I'm fine with that. I think that we got to hit in the mid rounds on some of these linemen. You've got to all these good teams that got good offensive linemen, they find guys in that 3rd to 6th round area. We've got to add some quality depth, guys that, they might actually end up pushing. Look at Filelli from the Ravens. He was a backup for like 2 or 3 years. Tackle, they move him inside, and the guy's a stud. He's a giant. We need to do that. We don't need to go 1st and 2nd round on offensive line. I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah.
But we just need to find guys. And so I think that's now. So tight end. What about D? Where are you at with the D? We got to get you out of here. You got to 8 minutes. So we got 8 minutes left.
Hey, you're good, man. Hey, I'm good with whatever we're talking. It's all good. The defense, yeah, it's tough because you got to see where we're at.
We need a DI. I think we need DI.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I'd love a big nose tackle to pair with Siller, a guy that can truly take on 2 guys and really cause chaos in the middle. And that'll benefit everyone else.
Yep.
And I love our linebacker unit. If we have that too, I love Jordan Brooks' addition. I think Dotson came on strong at the end of the season. I'm fine with bringing him back at a good price. We still need to add another linebacker. I think you definitely got to add another linebacker. The tricky part is the secondary, honestly, because Poyer is probably riding off into the sunset, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Holland, I think, is going to be somewhere else unless we franchise tag him. Because he's going to get paid. He's going to.
We're not doing that. I think that he's gone.
Yeah, I think he's going to the highest bidder. So you have 0 safeties, and hey, you never know. Ramsey's at the point in his career. He's
full of 2.
Yeah, so he's a top level guy, but he wants to win and stuff too. So you never know when these things might. He could get traded. You never know. So I like Fuller and Ramsey, but you probably got to add another corner one way or the other. Kohu played pretty good down the stretch, but he's a slot guy only. So, you can't really even factor him into the corner situation.
You think he stays or goes?
Who?
Kohu.
I say he's got to stay.
Think they'll keep him?
I think so, but you never know.
I wonder what his market's going to be.
Yeah, it's interesting. Once again, I think if he's selling this, he's trying to sell himself. He can't sell himself as an outside corner, in my opinion, which helps us because he's just a slot guy. But we'll see. That's
Can you
definitely
believe Noah Ignogamy is on the Redskins starting
and playing good. Just our luck, huh?
How good is he playing? I haven't really watched him. Is he playing well?
I think he's playing well. I'm watching them more now that obviously the playoffs is going on.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen him do anything bad.
No, he had one where he got rubbed for a big play, but it wasn't really his fault.
Yeah. I mean, So if you tell me you got Noah Igbinoghene out there and you notice him once for 60 minutes, I'm taking that.
That's way better than here.
I know at one point during the season, there was a tweet that went viral. He was apparently top 5 in every statistic as slot corner.
Wow.
Yeah. No, he's actually playing out of his mind.
I got to check into it. I haven't had a chance. I've been so locked on the Dolphins, man. I kind of got tunnel vision this year.
Yeah. I get that way during the season too.
So, okay. So if you take in like a moderately good draft and free agency, what are you projecting this season to be? Because to me, there's a lot of good teams in the AFC. And to climb over them, are we going to 18? Or you think we're going to 18 this year or next year?
I'm gonna say next year because they just made the jump already. So like, but Roger Goodell seems sure about it. So you never know, man. He's like, it's not even a question to him. It's a matter of when. So like, that's tricky. I thought it was still up for negotiation, but the way he talks, it's like, no, this is where we're really trying to go.
Yep.
So 18 in 2 preseason games is the idea. And I don't know. My problem is, and it's a big problem, is that if we're healthy this year, we win 11 or 12 games easily. So like, I have to try to keep perspective on that because if I told you, right, if we're sitting here having this conversation and we're 11, 12 win team, our mindset would be a little different, right? If Tua finishes out the season, Tyreek's not asking for a trade. There's a lot of different things. There's a little more momentum. And, hey, we go to the playoffs. We probably go into Buffalo and get beat. I don't know where we would be if we were 11 or 12 win team, but nonetheless, we're probably still a first round exit. So I considered, if we're going to have mostly the same roster, if you can go improve the trenches, which I think is our hugest need, and it's been our biggest lead for the last 3-4 years. Well, you can probably say 20 years, honestly, but trying to keep things within perspective. But I think if you can fix the trenches, even on both sides, you can be 11, 12 win team easily. I don't even care how good the AFC is. There's no reason with the talent we have, especially if you improve our biggest weaknesses, which will help the rest of our talent succeed. I really think we can still win 11, 12 games. Now, the problem comes in, does that 11, 12 win team actually scare anybody? And is it a real contender? That's always been the question mark.
Yeah.
We can run anybody out of the stadium in August and September. Can we actually scare somebody in January? And that comes back to how we build this team. And that's why I want to Grier out of here, because his structure and my structure don't align on how a team should be built.
Well, to me, it's going to be very interesting because he was so adamant, so vocal in the way he wanted to build the team. And then he had to come out and suck eggs in front of everybody and admit he was wrong without ever admitting he was wrong. So I'll be interested to see what he does. It's clear now. That to me is like the best thing. There's still the whole Tua thing. Is he suck? Is he okay? Or is he great? Is he being held back by the team? I mean, that's always going to be, I think that's Dolphin fans. I think they're going to be divided on that till the end, But I think it was great that most Dolphin fans are clear on Grier now, clear on the offensive line. And so it'll be very interesting to see how he plays it out and how it ends and how he responds.
Yeah, I agree. I think that since he had to publicly address it.
I love that. I loved it.
Yeah, it was awesome because I loved his response. Because that clearly means he heard the noise, he felt the pressure, and he even probably it would be fair to say that he's seen the product wasn't good enough. So
had to. How could he not? Unless he was totally drunk and stoned.
So one's got to assume that they're going to take a swing at the O-line this year and put some assets towards that for sure.
Well, that's the thing is for me. We'll wrap up with this, and I'll give you a last little bit on Tua, and then that. But to me, I want to see Tua with a coherent framework, so we don't have any he doesn't need to have a top 5 offensive line or whatever, but a reasonable offensive line so he can get his final evaluation, so we can be clear on him. And I don't think it's possible. I mean, his injuries is another fog of war, but the framework, the offensive line, this scheme that we have, it's all fog of war. And I'm not saying it cloaks, Dan Marino 2.0, but I think it's definitely held him down. But I want it to be so clear that I love when Dolphin fans come together. It just feels great when all the fans, now we can all say the offensive line, maybe some people don't think it as much as maybe me or you, but they're all saying, hey, look, we got to do something here. I want the Dolphin fans to be unified. So what do you think on to what's your Tua take? In 5 words.
No, I think now or never. Like with everyone else, he's got to put together. He's got to stay on the field and he's got to perform.
Yeah.
And I do agree that they can do things to help him stay on the field and perform. So I hope all those things meet together and we get the best version, or at least get, like you said, a clear version and evaluation of Tua, and we can say this is good enough moving forward or this ain't. And then have the ability to move on or move forward, whichever way that is. But that's the thing, like you said, like that's honestly the definition of the Dolphins. We can sit here all day and talk about this stuff, but it's only like half knowingly, because we have never seen it at its full scale, because it's always an injury. It's always Tua's not even in there. What if Tua did play 6 of the games he missed? Like, are we a 12-win team? Like, and I know it's stupid to even say, like, I think we're easily a 12-win team if Tua just plays, but we don't know. So that's the biggest issue. And I'm tired of, like, look, I'd rather Tua play 18 games. This is going to sound bad, but it's the truth. I'd rather Tua play 18 games and live with the results than Tua miss 6 and go, well, maybe next year, and let's keep Grier and McDaniel.
Yeah.
So whether that's a bad results or good results, I can live with it. Go build the roster. And also, I feel like, and I think that's kind of what you're hinting at too, is like, if you build the offense complete, you don't need gimmicks. You don't need jets, fake motions.
Yeah.
Line up, let Tua play football. Not crazy, super wrinkled, super creative and trying to cover. Like, just line up, have a decent running game, and have a good passing attack. Like, they didn't do anything crazy at Alabama. They lined up. Now, granted, Alabama is an anomaly.
Super duper.
Yeah, they have all the pieces. They have 4 awesome receivers and 5 great O linemen.
Yeah.
But they didn't do anything special. They lined up. They handed the ball to Najee Harris, or he took shots off of play action. But my point is, that shows you what complimentary football can do for Tua.
Yep.
If guys are open, I think we can all agree Tua's going to hit them. But yeah, if his first reads took, or he's having problems processing, or everybody knows we're going to do this, so you can't even lean on something else. Yeah, you're going to have problems with Tua. I think that can also be said.
Yeah, it's ridiculous that you got a guy who's has to, whatever reason, because it's McDaniel's scheme, it's because the offensive line can't block, or he can't go through his whatever. Whatever you want to say. You can't throw the football 2.02 seconds, 78% of the time, and throw 20% screens. That's just not feasible.
Right.
And so there's got to be a system where he can go beyond that, and then he can either shut people up or confirm them. And that's what I just want to see, because I'm burnt out. I was burnt out fighting the offensive line Grier thing for years. And now somehow I've kind of like starting to do a rebattle with this Tua thing. I don't want, like, I think the kid can play. I think the kid's got flaws to his game. A little bit. He's not Burrow. He's not Allen. He's not Mahomes. I don't know what he could be if he get everything right. Maybe he grows into Breeze. I don't know. But I know this thing has held him back, and you've got to constantly fight it. It's just tiring. I just want Dolphin fans to be happy. I want us all to be like, laughing about how good we are and fighting other teams and not fighting with each other. It's just so tiring. It's so tiring. And I just want that to like be over with. I want us to be unified. Because back in the 80s, man, in the 90s, people were pretty much like together, like they'd be like, I don't think we could do it this year, but I love Marino. I love Shula. We got a shot. And, they would pick out little stuff, you'd always have guys that didn't like Marino or whatever, but it was mostly the same. It was so fun. It was so fun being a Dolphins fan back then.
They also didn't have Twitter.
No. That is true. That is true.
It's a game changer.
That is absolutely true.
They could have had those guys out there. You just didn't have to see them every day.
That is true. That is true. That's absolutely true.
I think
Twitter.
Yeah, I just want to see. And this isn't like, honestly, what we're saying isn't even like about Tua. Like, I want to see our team with a running game that has to be respected.
Yep.
And a quarterback that gets more than 2 seconds to read a field and look for an open receiver. And I got news for you. I mean, this isn't breaking news, but you see how open Tyreek and Waddle and the plays that they can make with 2 seconds. Imagine you give those guys 4 seconds. Like, that's not that's not rocket science. Like, I'm not like up here just killing it right now. Like, this is common sense. I don't think Tua is the has the strongest arm in the world. I don't think he's the best reader of the field. But I do think that if you give Tua a clean pocket and he has time to find a guy, he's going to hit him 9 times out of 10. And that is something to be said. I mean, that's a lot of people, that's not a given.
No.
And so, and any team needs a running attack, especially if you're going to go be competitive in January and February.
100%.
I mean, dude, we pointed something out the other day. All those games yesterday were amazing. And you would have never noticed just by watching them. They all looked like normal games. The winning quarterbacks on all of those games had 120 yards passing.
Yep.
That's not it. You don't have to be launching bombs. You just
the quarterback, you look at Stafford, he had double the amount of Hurts or more. You look at Lamar threw double or more with Allen, and they lost. I mean, the weather definitely played a factor.
Yeah, for sure. But
still,
with that being said, with a complimentary team and a run game, you can go into bad weather and still survive. I mean, Saquon obviously is
special,
an outlier. Clearly, that's a handicap. That's just like,
he's a stud. He's a guy who could have played at any era. He is a special back.
Yeah,
special back.
That makes things easy. But the Eagles also have the best O-line. They're one of the best O-lines, and Saquon Barkley, and honestly a running quarterback. So it's like they can survive.
Good tight ends.
Yep, and they can survive this weather as good as anybody. They're honestly built for it, and an amazing defense.
Yep.
I'm not so sure.
Fangio guy, man. That's what he sucks.
I'm not so sure about that defensive coordinator, but that talent is amazing.
He sucks, dude. He sucks. He's mean. He's a mean old man, dude. Are you kidding me? He's a mean old man.
I will say this. Fangio obviously is not done bad this year, but man, what a situation to fall into.
Yeah, but I'll say this because I do like Fangio. Last year, they had almost the same personnel practically. And he's got number one in almost every category. And he was with us, and he broke the sack record. I still think the guy is great. I mean, he's old school. He doesn't fit in what we do here, our culture and stuff. And I'm not saying he's the greatest thing, but I think he's pretty talented.
Yeah, for sure. I think that maybe like he held back. I do think that he wasn't. Well, he wasn't. And I think he's a great. There's no arguing. Fangio is one of the greatest defensive minds ever. But I do think when you show up to a place and you're already knowing that you're looking for the way out and heart's not there, I don't think he put in the best effort every day in the building. And I've talked to some people and whatever. I'm not here to claim I know the truth, but I don't think he showed up with let's be the best. I don't think he gave all his time he could have gave to the building, to the team, to the personnel, to the players, and that's fine. As soon as the season ended, he was out. He signed with the Eagles 24 hours later. That's where he wanted to be. I will say that on the contrary, we ranked terrible in defense last year in most categories. Weaver came in with the same personnel, as you said, and put us pretty much top 10 in every category. Weaver wants to be there, as Jeff Darlington told you. Loves it in South Florida, wants to be there. It means something. It just means something when you know the guy that you're going to war for would go to war for you. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know the backdrop. I think actually the talent on this year's is better than last year's.
Yeah,
some degree.
Well, yeah, in some places.
I think that when Fangio had Chubb, Phillips, Sealer, and Wilkins, that was phenomenal. But our middle linebackers couldn't cover, and that was so critical to his defense. He didn't have Ramsey for the first 6 games. He didn't have Fuller this year, although Fuller was out and stuff. So I don't know. I like Weaver though. I do. I think Weaver's shown to be a nice complement between the tough guy. He played the game, and he's got some personability. Fangio's not personable.
Yeah, he just is who he is. He's going to be in the press box. He's going to call plays. You got to trust that he knows what he's doing, and that's who he is. That's fine. And when you have the roster that the Eagles have, that works. That works for sure. I got one question for you.
Sure.
What do you think happened with David Long? Because I thought Jordan Brooks and David Long was going to be an awesome combo. And it's just like David Long just didn't work.
Yeah, well, he didn't work last year either. I show a lot of film that he's terrible in zone coverage. And so for Fangio, every linebacking group is critical for a defense. But for Fangio, because what he likes to run the match cover and just basically rush 4 and drop 7, the linebackers tie it all together, and he is terrible.
Yeah.
And in this year, he was asked to also attack, stack, and shed, and he has a tendency to guess a lot. And so he's a small linebacker, and so he had to attack, stack, and shed a lot. He was making a lot of bad guesses, and he was asked to cover, and he can cover small zones, but not big zones. And so I think that what we wanted to run here was we want more like a Brooks. That's the kind of guy, or Walker. And so I think they were kind of stuck with him because he was a captain and he had, in a lot of ways, a good year last year in the run stop. Yeah. And he was cheap. But I think ultimately he got exposed too much. He was exposed a lot with Fangio too. It's just that they had such a great front that he was free a lot, and he kind of got covered up a little bit by what Fangio was doing. And, he made some mistakes. So I think that really is – he's just not a cover linebacker. You got to send him to a two-gap defense where they're sucking up two linemen, and he's free and he can just run and be like, like a two-down guy. Or if you're going to be on third down, you give him small zones to cover. But he didn't fit with what we want to do here. It was just he was asked to do too many things. It's not his skill set. So that's my 2 cents. I don't know if that's right or not, but that's my 2 cents.
No, yeah, I pretty much agree with that. And I think you nailed it.
So anyway, look, you're going away, and so we're going to let you roll. But first, Bobby Shouse, I want to say thank you, man. You are an amiable guy. You got off work, showed up here to do this thing, and you were willing to stay. Well, I was going to do a 7-hour podcast with you, but I said, let me roll it back. I roll it back to 50 minutes. But you're a great guy, dude. I really do appreciate you, and I really appreciate the dive bar a lot, especially that Darlington thing. Nice of you that Darlington just shows up on a dive bar and wears your hat, Mr. Awesome, Mr. Hot to Trot. So tell us, how can we reach you? Tell us all about you. Give us your whole spiel, because it's a great spiel and it's a great show.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. Obviously, we're very fortunate with Darlington. I mean, honestly, we're fortunate with a lot of stuff we get to do, honestly. So I'm very thankful for the relationships that we have and people we've had on to help open doors for the next guest and, whoever. But I'm on Twitter, B_Shouts Jr. But honestly, if you want to just go over to YouTube, the Dive Bar Podcast, that's the best place. I care more about that than anything else, man. I love what we do there. I love what we get to do, me and the guys hanging out. I'm very proud. I'm very proud. Last time we talked, we were just getting in the door, but I've gotten to see the what would you say? The fruit of our labors a little bit more, and it's about to start up again because, as everybody knows, the off season is our in season. So I'm very proud of the Dive Bar, and that would mean the world to me. If you want to subscribe to the Dive Bar Podcast, I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a great show, man. So thank you, Bobby. You be safe and be well, and you keep doing what you're doing. Bring us some good information, brother. Thank you again. Everybody, have a great night. Curtis and Bobby Shouse saying go Fins. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceBread.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.